That's what I'm talking about, son. Get you some of that daggone pie.
Woo-hoo! Looky there! There's your bug-eyed big one right there.
Getting started. We're getting started.
Here's what I'm talking about. Gosh dang gorilla!
Let's go, baby. Straight meat. God, look at that biggin.
All right, everybody, welcome on into the BAM Pod. I'm your host, Big Ed, and on the line tonight, I went out and I've got you a guy that took me a little bit to get. He's not an easy guy to nail down, let me tell you that right now, but I went out and got this guy from Clearlake, California, a place I just spent 2 days on, and he was out there fishing, and this guy is real good. I don't mean good, I mean real good, right? So, Mr. John Pearl, welcome into the show, my friend.
How's it going?
It's going good. You know, you're one of those guys out here on the West that everybody pretty much knows your name. Everybody out here understands what you can do when you put a rod in your hand and you go out to Clear Lake. And not just Clear Lake anymore. I mean, now that you're fishing the Apex Tour, you have been showing some guys that you can pretty much put the wood to them at any place, anytime. You've been in the top 10. How many times now in the Apex?
Oh, man. I'm going to say roughly, I'm not going to positively, but about 7 or 8 times.
Nice.
I've only missed a few.
Yeah. I was going to say, you've been fishing it for what? It's only been around for 2 years now, right? This would be the second year. Is this this is the second year. Third year. This is the third year coming up.
This will be the third year coming up. Yeah.
Right. You guys have fished this for twice. There's only 5 events during the whole thing. So you fished roughly 10 events, and you've probably made it to the top 10 8 times. 7 or 8 times, we're gonna say.
I missed Columbia is the one I missed, and then the first year.
Mm-hmm.
And then, no, the second year. Last year I missed the top 10 on the Columbia, and then when we went down to San Vicente and El Cap, I just missed it down there as well.
Man, this is this is tough out here in the West with some of these lakes, because we're not going to, you're not going to these super popular big giant lakes. You're going to some fairly new lakes that most everybody hasn't been to, but there's some good fish in them, and you guys are finding them. And I don't know, you've just been showing everybody what you can do. And I you just went to the Western Bass Shootout, which is the largest event we've had over here in a very long time, and you made a top 10 there. So
yeah, I'm happy about that one.
Yeah, you had a chance to win that one.
I did. Things just when things don't go right, things don't go right, and it just everything didn't fall in place in that one. But I'll take a top 10 against, some of the best fishermen on the West Coast.
Yeah,
I will definitely top 10 against those guys.
Oh yeah, the Ken Maws are out there. The freaking, all those.
No, you got like Kyle Grover. Let's just say Kyle. He's good everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter. Havasu, down SoCal Lakes where it's clear, up here Delta, like he can go anywhere and catch them. He's just one of them. You got John Branch, who came all the way from, Washington, fishing it. Those guys, just guys from all over. It's amazing how talented these guys are, but we don't always see them because they fish different circuits than us.
Right.
And to get us all in place, you get to see the talent coming from all over.
Yeah, and that was definitely one of the unique parts about that event, was that it was from the Toyota Series, from the Apex, from the One Bass, from the Western or the Wild West. Right. So I mean, you got 4 different groups right there. That some of those guys, like you said, you don't fish against them, you don't get to see how good they really are. Then they show up, and you're like, wow, that was impressive.
Exactly. Like you hear about them, them, you've talked to them before at certain tournaments, but then after you get to talk to them, then you start looking and watching. You watch every tournament, and you're like, okay, he's constantly in the top 10. He's constantly in the top 10. Like he's winning stuff. He's doing this, and you're like, okay. And then now we're all together in one tournament. And you're like, oh, okay, you know, in the Apex, we've been fishing against each other. You know, the 30 whatever from the first year, we've been fishing against it. This will be our third year fishing against each other, most of us.
Right.
So we kind of know, and we all get along. We all help each other. Like it's, you know, it's competitive, but we're all friends because we've gotten to know each other over the last couple of years. So we kind of know who's going to be dominant on which waters. Doesn't matter where we go. There's spotted bass lakes, there's smallmouth bass lakes, there's largemouth bass lakes. Like you kind of get used to who's going to be a pushing force on a spotted bass lake. You got those guys who, you know, you got, if there's grass, you know, that's a Ken Ma deal. If there's grass in the lake and he can utilize it, you got to watch out for him. You know, I don't care what lake it is. If it's got grass, you better watch it. You know, and me personally, I don't care where I go fishing. I just want to catch fish. and you know, like, and I've always been like that. I just like catching fish. Yeah. Like this is what I love to do. That's why I guide. I love to catch fish. I love to watch people catch fish, and they could be 12 inches. I could care less.
Right.
I just want to catch them.
That's awesome.
And that's why I do so good in the Apex. Like everybody loves catching big ones. Don't get me wrong. And that's one thing about the Apex that is awesome because you have two ways of qualifiers for the top 10.
Yeah.
So,
because you got your numbers and you got weight.
Yeah, so you got numbers and weight. So my perspective on the whole Apex thing is I'm going to go out the first day, and you can look at my results from most of the tournaments. I may not do very good on the first day because I'm going to use that day to try to catch big ones. And that's how I utilize my day for the Apex. I'll use 3/4 of the day trying to catch big ones. But by the end of the day, I will know where every fish is in that lake. So the second day is for catching.
Yeah.
And that's the nice thing about it. Like I said, I love catching bass. I love catching fish in general.
Yeah. Well, you know, that kind of leads me into, you know, you're at, you know, up in Upper Lake, which is right around Clearlake, which is a very well-known body of water. And this time of year, you know, you're talking about, you know, the numbers, the size and all that. And everybody pretty much knows that during this time of year, you can definitely go out there and catch some really big fish. Let's talk a little bit about, you know, springtime fishing and what we're going to see here soon. Now here out in the West, we've kind of been pushed back almost a month, I would say. And everything's a little weird because we still got cold. So some of our bodies of water still have cold water coming into them. Others is really starting to warm up. I was just on Clearlake recently. The water temperature was right there where they should be getting close to spawning, and some are, some aren't. Let's talk a little bit about springtime and what we can kind of go out there and see. And you know, and I know your favorite lake, because you told me this is Berryessa. And that's a really interesting lake because it has all three species, you know, very prominent, not just like, oh, there's some here and some there. There's a lot of spots and there's a lot of smallmouth. There's a lot of largemouth in that thing. So why don't you break down a couple of these lakes that are right in our area out here and tell people, you know, what you want to start looking for and what you want to do.
Oh, Clearlake right now is, like you said, this is the weirdest year I've seen in a long time. And, you know, a month and a half ago, I had a foot of snow, and I live a block from the lake. I had a foot of snow in my yard. And I've lived here my whole life. We moved here when I was 2, so pretty much lived here my whole life. I've never seen a foot of snow at lake level.
Right.
You know, and it pushed us way back. So we had a really slow winter because the water was low, and then it came up, you know, around 10 feet in 2 months. So those fish were weird from there, but so the water slowly warmed up, but we had all those storms come in, and it pushed it back. So the swim bait bite this year it was fairly good. We never really got on that big glide bait bite like most years when the water slowly warms up and they progress into the spawn, so they're feeding up. Yeah. Well, this year was like pushed into like 3 weeks of like some of the best swim bait bite, but you had to throw like a a trash fish, an osprey, the more the 7-inch, 6-7-inch baits.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't really biting the bigger baits. And the reason is, how I look at it, is the hitch this year, there's 1 million 4 to 7-inch hitch in the lake right now.
Yeah.
I mean, you pull up into a tule patch on the north end, and they are everywhere. So those bass are keying in on that smaller bait, even like the rip bait bite was phenomenal, and it still is. But for the last week, those fish have really pushed the bank. So we missed a lot of that bite because it was so cold for so long. And then it snapped, springtime really arrived. And so every afternoon those fish are pushing the bank, but at night it still drops back into the 40s and the water temperature drops back into the low 50s.
Mm-hmm.
And those fish move back out. And then in the afternoon, they all move back up. So it was a really good few weeks of phenomenal fishing. Like, I had a client catch a 1032 on a trash fish, and it was great.
Now, now you talk about, at night it's dropping back down, the fish are moving out, and then in the morning, later on, so you're waiting for it to warm up, and they move back up, and then you get back up to them being in shallow water. Now, are you able to target them when they do move out into the deeper water and looking for, I guess the easiest way to say, are you just looking for those bigger fish out there, or are you pretty much thinking everything is just everywhere right now when it gets cold at night like that?
There's no rhyme or reason. It's like the grass is starting to grow, so there's not specific, like normal springs.
Mm-hmm.
You get out there and you search around and you find these small patches of grass, and that's where the fish are going to stop before they go to the bank. Well, it seems like spring hit so fast, that those small patches of grass were growing, but the water temperature, the sunlight penetration was there, but the temperature was cold.
Right.
So the grass was growing, but the fish never moved into them. They didn't stop like on their migration like they usually. They didn't stop on a patch of grass and wait there for 3 weeks and then move to the bank. So now, like you said, those fish are moving up in the afternoons, and it drops at night, so they move back out. Well, there's not a patch of grass they're particularly moving back to. They're just moving out to the grass, so they're like everywhere. They're just down the bank. They move out from 7 feet, they move out to 10.
Right.
So that's about where the grass edge is, about 10, 11 feet. So it's not a particular spot. It's just you find outside of those spawning little coves or patches of tules, they're just going to move out a little ways. But they are hard to catch. The lake is not on fire right now.
Yeah, I learned that one the hard way.
Like, it amazed me. So, like, the week before the shootout, so not last week, but the week before, the bite was phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
I left for the shootout for a week, come home, 2 days off, guide trips. And it went from phenomenal fishing to wow. It makes you scratch your head when you pull up to a tule patch and you see, like you said earlier, 45, 50 pounds of bass swimming around for 5. Giants just swimming around, sitting in the tules, and you're just like,
yep.
Huh. You throw to them, they swim off. Or you throw to them, and they don't even move. And, gosh, it's frustrating.
Yeah, it was definitely frustrating. So
yeah, this is a time it happens every year, but it happened really fast this year.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask you. Does it seem like it just really has been very, like, everything's been slowed way down, but then when it starts to go, it's just quick. I feel like these fish are so in the like hurry up and wait kind of mode almost, where it's like, I want to spawn. I mean, with some of the fish we caught were just blowing up. Their bellies were so big.
Bass Angler Magazine is your guide to better bass fishing. Bass Angler is dedicated to helping you catch more and bigger bass no matter what time of year or where you live. This is not your ordinary fishing magazine. Every issue is jam-packed with 30-plus articles from the world's best bass anglers. Bass Angler Magazine is available at bassanglermag.com, Tackle Warehouse, Bass Pro Shops, Cabela's, Gander Mountain, Walmart, and better tackle shops everywhere. Bass Angler also makes a great gift for any angler. Get Bass Angler today and start catching more bass tomorrow. Visit bassanglermag.com or your favorite tackle shop. This is not your ordinary fishing magazine. bassanglermag.com.
I call it love drunk.
Mm.
They're love drunk. That's all that they have one thing on their mind. Especially the big females. They're like, get these eggs out of me. Like, it's like they went to the buffet and they ate way too much, but they don't have a belt to undo.
Right.
Like they're just like bloated, and there's only one thing they can do is to get rid of the eggs to make them feel better.
Right.
And so they're just sitting there like, please just let the water hit 60, at least 58 in the mornings.
Yeah.
And we'll be fine. Get rid of these eggs and we'll go back to, they'll start biting again.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was going to ask you is, what do you think that the temperature that we're waiting for? What is it that we're waiting on to see? Because I'll tell you what, there are lakes all over right now that are kind of in that same mode. I mean, we're just so pushed back. We're so far off. And you're saying 58 to 65. Is that kind of the range that you're looking for that bite to really pick back up?
We need the 58 at, in the mornings, 56, 58. It's got to stay. It can't drop below 56 in the mornings. It has to stay a constant, and we'll have that giant wave move. They'll move up. Mm-hmm. But when you put the boat in the water in the morning, like Friday, I put the boat in, it was 53.
Yeah.
But by the afternoon, there was bedfish everywhere. And then same thing. Saturday, put the boat in the water, it was 54. And it's like those cold nights are just they're putting a hamper on it,
Right.
They're hindering the spawn, and like you said, these fish they just want to go. They're so over this hot cold.
That's all right. I think we all are.
yeah. We can all use a little bit of spring, but I think it's just going to jump right into summer. We're not going to get a spring this year.
Right. That is definitely the unfortunate part.
Yeah. I was talking to my buddy yesterday. He's striper fish on the river. He guides, and he's like, dude, it's like 85 degrees down here. And I was like, ugh.
Right.
Yep. That's there was no cool.
There was 70s.
Nope. There was no. And I think the bass are in the same thing. Like they went from 45-degree water, then it jumped up, into like the low 50s, and now every afternoon the water's in the 60s.
Yeah.
61 to 63. You get back into some of the canals, and it's like 65. But then at night you get those cold temperatures again, where it's in the low 40s, mid 40s, outside, and every night we've had wind here on the lake.
Oh yeah.
So so you got the wind blowing, white capping, it's rolling into that cold air, and it just cools the water right back down.
Let me ask you this. When it does kick off, now I got fooled this weekend because I was showing whopper ploppers and frogs, and I've seen these fish, and it's like they're right at the surface, they got to eat, right? And that's what I want to catch them on. But what are you going to have in your hands when this thing does, I'm guessing that we're probably 2 weeks away from just absolute mayhem. What are you going to have in your hands when you go out there and attack that lake again? When that happens.
So with the amount of willows that like in the lake now, like this is, I've never seen it.
Yeah.
Like this, those 3 years of low water have let willows grow out where there was nothing before. You can't get to some of the tules anymore. on the north end. There is a wall of willows that are 8-9 foot tall.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
frog bite, I feel like that frog bite in those willows, the buzz bait, it doesn't matter if it's a single buzz, one of those horny toad buzz, a double buzz. I feel like the buzz bait bite this year in those willows is going to be phenomenal.
Yeah.
And then swim jig. I really feel like a swim jig is going to be a player, after the spawn. And then a jig or just a flip rig. That'll be like my main things, once they get into the spawn and through the spawn, it's going to be that topwater bite, the frog and the buzz bait, a swim jig and a flip rig. I think it's going to be all you really need.
And you go out there and now, Clearlake is one of those lakes that every year, you hear guys that are catching, big fish. Like you just had a guide trip, a guy catches a 10, 1030. You can do that all year long there, right? I mean, it's not one of those things where, you're not going to be able to catch, in 2 weeks, if you go out there and you start catching fish, that's great. And then, 4 weeks later, it's like you catch nothing. You can't catch anything over that. But all summer at Clearlake, you can still catch those big fish, right?
Oh, all year. Yeah, there's not a day in this that you can't catch 8 to 10 pound fish.
Now,
I've caught 10 pounders in August on a frog. Or like my personal best year is almost 14, and I caught in the middle of January.
Wow.
On a 13-inch squat.
Wow, that's impressive. What people kept asking me this the whole time when I was getting ready to go there. What is the lake record over there for a largemouth?
17. I think like 17 3/4. I think.
Wow. Okay. I mean, honestly, you would maybe think it would be bigger, but yeah.
It's exactly. People are like, "Oh, that's pretty big," and I'm like, "No, Berryessa has a bigger record. Shasta has a bigger record, I think. Orville, I think, might have a bigger record. Like all these lakes, like Pillsbury up in the mountains, has a bigger lake record than Clearlake. I'm pretty sure." And you would think.
Now, do you think do you think a bigger fish lives in there?
Oh, I definitely.
Okay.
I'm 100% sure there's bigger fish than that. Most years there's a 15-pounder caught.
Yeah.
This year, this last 2 years was not very good, with the low water. And a lot of people think a lot of fish died. I don't think fish mortality was bad, was like most people think.
Right.
I think the lake was just so low that those fish were where we have never fished before. As fishermen, we've never, our generation has never seen the lake, 2 feet -2 on the scale.
Right.
So, we've always fished the same stuff. Our generation has fished the same rounds. We all fish the same stuff when we come to Clearlake. Always. When the water's at a certain level, we fish in certain spots. Well, we've never seen it that low. So we've never had to fish where once the water was 40 feet, now it's 35.
Yeah.
Well, on a normal year, fish will sit in 40 feet, 35 feet, in the summer, even in the winter.
Yeah.
Well, we never went out to where, where the water was probably 55. Well, now it's 45 or 40. We never fished out there before. We never even looked out there.
Right.
And so I think a lot of those fish moved and we just thought they died or something happened. But
yeah, well,
the lake
and you mentioned a couple things in there that's kind of interesting about that lake, about, now there's it going that low. It is allowed for willow trees to grow. It is allowed for you and all these other anglers that go out there to, like you said, fish in waters that are now 20, if it was 50 feet deep, now it's only 35 feet deep. If it was, this deep or that, you're fishing depths, you're fishing grasses, you're fishing places. I mean, when you drive out to that lake or you go to that lake and you look at it for the first time, you're sitting there going, wow, this thing is, it's a big lake. It's not a giant lake, but it's a big lake. And how do you not fish, when you're driving out there and all of a sudden you're like, wow, we're still only in 20 feet of water and there's grass and there's weed. How do you not fish out in the middle of that lake, and look for fish? Because it's just hard to target, right?
It's hard. Yeah, the whole north end is a flat. There's no deep bowls. There's no boulders out in the middle. Like, it is a giant flat where weeds grow. And like you said, you launch the boat in the summer, and there's grass as far as you can see.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you said, how do you go out in the middle of that and start fishing?
Yeah.
You don't, because we as fishermen are visual.
Right.
You know, I get asked that question every year. How do you fish up there? What do you look for? Like, it's mud. Well, I've been doing it my whole life. It's just natural for me to put my trolling motor down and go fishing. They're like, what are you casting at? I'm casting at nothing. I'm casting at mud.
Mm-hmm.
But like I was saying earlier, when that grass starts to grow in certain areas, it could be an inch tall grass. Those fish gravitate to it. It's green grass, you know, on a mud flat. And like you said, I got used to it, but I've never fished in the middle of the lake.
Ever.
I've never even thought about it.
I was going to say till probably closer this year. I mean, it was the lowest it's been in forever. And all of a sudden, like you said, you're fishing areas out there going, well, there's grass growing here now. Huh, amazing. You know, and you're only talking something like you said, oh, it was 20 feet. Well, it wasn't this year. It was only 10. So now it became something fishable. And I think that's one of those things that's really tough to look at. Now switch up a little bit, because I want to talk about Berryessa a little bit, because Berryessa is another one of those lakes that I truly love. Berryessa. I have a lot of good times down there. I've come really close to winning some big events there, and it's a lake that you can do so much in. And this year again, we're back up to full. You know, the water, that lake is darn near full, if not full now. So how do you approach a lake that's got so many different things? Do you only target largemouth? Do you just spread it around, because they're everywhere? Spots, smallmouth, and largemouth are everywhere on that lake.
Yeah, it's like you said, I love that lake. PJ and I won a lot of money on that lake. We put our time in, and we won a lot. We won a boat there. Like, we learned that lake. Like, it was just phenomenal. Like, we learned it, and it's a lake where you can pattern fish, and you can run that pattern anywhere on the lake.
Yeah.
You know, if you find a creek channel, well, you run creek channels. And wintertime, the spoon bite there is that's some of the funnest times you will ever have. It's Berryessa with the spoon.
So much.
And like you said, you'll catch 5-pound largemouth, you'll catch 5-pound spots, and you will catch 3 and 4-pound smallmouth and 5-pound meanmouth, all in the same school. And it's crazy. And then, so we learned the lake on low water. Like, when we first started fishing there, we had low water. So it was kind of like the same thing here. We learned all those offshore spots that weren't offshore.
Right.
You know, that was shore then. So we learned all those spots, and we learned how to fish them really, like, that was our stuff. And then we got a high water year, you know, in 2000, what was it, 16, 17 or something like that?
Yeah, 15, 16, 17 right there. Yeah.
And it was the same thing we have here. You had that whole east shore was willows. You know, half a mile of willows out in the middle of the lake. So all that stuff we were fishing was now in 50, 60, 70 feet of water, 80 feet of water. So we had to relearn the lake, pretty much.
Right.
And so it was a learning curve, but we started fishing really shallow. And we were catching spots and smallies and largemouth, you know, in that 10 feet or less, even in the winter. It was pretty crazy. And that's the thing about that lake is when that lake does fill, those fish move to the bank when it's rising, even when it's cool, because all that stuff that's coming in, all the bugs, all the just whatever's coming into the lake, they're feeding.
Right.
And so right now that lake is a little bit behind Clearlake, which most years it is. They'll start spawning, like the smallmouth are probably spawning now.
Right.
You know, but the largemouth are up shallow. Like the topwater bite down there should be phenomenal. like a spook bite,
Yeah.
spook, wake bait, like that should be phenomenal, as well as the swim bait bite. You should be able to fish, any point with a wake bait or a glide, depth 250 or S waiver, pick your poison,
Right.
they bite them. That we've had, like when PJ and I had that 41 pounds, those were Hud fish, and we had one on a 10XD and one on a 10-inch Ben Parker spoon. So it's like pick your poison. You want to go crank them, you can crank them. You want to swim bait them, you swim bait them. That's the one thing about that lake that draws me to it.
Well, let me ask you this. A lot of people really look at that lake in a couple ways. If you go out to the main body, you go above Big Island, you go on the right side of the lake there over into what I think that's where they call it, the vineyard area, they get out there on those big giant grass flats with channels running through them and, old trees. And there's a lot of stuff out there, but they consider that mostly like, that's where you go for largemouth. Then you go back down to the Narrows, you go into the, Puda Creek, you go into, all that. And it's like, that's where you go for spots. And then you go out into this, and and the lake is crazy if you look it up on a map, but there's like pockets and coves and everything on this lake. And it's like, oh, that's where you go for smallmouth. But basically that's not always the truth, right? You're pretty much looking, they'll be anywhere. A largemouth will be in the Narrows. They'll be, now they're probably not as concentrated as the spots are, but the Narrows are a lot more vertical stuff.
Yeah. The Narrows hold largemouth.
Mm-hmm.
That's where they plant the trout. That's where the trout go during the summer. A lot of the times is in the Narrows.
Right.
But you don't specifically target the Narrows just for spots. Yeah, it's deeper, but one of my favorite spots to catch the smallmouth is all the way up in the north, all the way up in the corner. I don't know what it is about the corner of the lake.
Right.
There's so many smallmouth in that part of the lake. It's wild. It's crazy to think they wouldn't be more in the deeper water or the rockier stuff, but they like that grass.
Yeah, it is a weird lake that way because smallmouth are not what you would notoriously think of as grass-oriented fish. They are very much specific. We think of rocks. When you think of smallmouth, you think of rock piles, areas with that sort of thing. But in Berryessa, they love grass.
Bass U, folks. Information is pouring over. If you want to learn more about every lake, how to fish, shallow, deep, in between, skipping docks and rocks and cranking, slow wiggling, chatter, smattering, you get it at Bass U. We got the best of the best. If somebody's ever caught a bass on something and perfected the technique, we got you covered. Get on Bass U TV, check it out, sign up, be a member, be part of it, folks. Keep learning. I'm Gerald Swindle. Subscribe to Bass U.
Love the grass down there. It's yeah. If you can get some rocky, gravelly stuff anywhere near any grass, the smallmouth are there.
Okay. And again, we're in that time of year where it's spring there now. It's finally I know it's hard to listen to and hear that, oh, we're in spring now, and it's like it's almost May. But we are. We're almost in spring. I'll tell you what, why don't you give me going into spring right now, fishing Berryessa. Give me 3 of your top baits that you would have tied on right now. They're just like, nope, I'm going to go out, I'm going to target, and this is what I'm going to catch big fish on.
Chatterbait, an LV. Right now, a topwater for sure. You're going to catch big ones on. You might not get a lot on it, but they're going to be big ones. And then topwater, LV.
Yeah. So like a Zara spook, would you tell me you would throw frogs?
It all depends. They eat them there, but I feel like later in the year when you do get some grass growing and the water starts dropping and you kind of get some grass mats.
Yeah.
Eat the willows, they will eat a frog really well, but early in the year they don't eat it that well there.
Right. But yeah, and unfortunately right now we're still kind of in that early part of the year. Now the one of the two things that that we just talked about is Berryessa and Clearlake. These are two lakes that don't have major river systems running into them.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they don't have water coming into them still, but they are basically fed by rain, by rivers that don't have big snow melts coming in. They're actually fed, by just river systems that are just rain fed. Now,
Correct.
with that said, that makes those lakes a little different. Like, so your first lake that you're coming to, and I know you can't talk about, or you can't get any information, so I will not give you any information on that lake. But like your first lake this year that you're going to be fishing with the Apex is Lake Almanor. Now that thing is surrounded by snow still. It's got a lot of cold water, and you're only going there in May.
I know. We went there 2 years ago, and around the same time. It was a little bit before that, but
right.
Kevin Johnson was there on the 4th of April.
Mm.
He had some right before our cutoff. He went up there, and the lake was still frozen in areas. Like, he was 150 yards off the bank, and it was frozen to the bank.
Right.
Yeah, no, it's real interesting.
Well, and again, now you're going to be up there May 11th, 12th, and 13th. You get anybody who wants to watch that, the Apex Tour, or pay attention or keep watching these guys. It'll be on a couple different channels, but YouTube, and it'll be on Abigail, and it'll be on. There's another. What is that one? I know you can
on Tourney X always.
Tourney X, Tourney X is the other one that you can watch it on, and there's one other channel. So if you guys want to tune in and watch these guys fish, we'll see what they're doing up there. Lake Almanor is predominantly a smallmouth lake. There are largemouth in it, but it is predominantly a smallmouth lake. And last year there were some, what was it? Gale force winds, snow, rain.
Oh,
just probably the nastiest stuff you could ever imagine fishing. Flakes that were coming down that were, silver dollar size.
It was the first day was beautiful. Second day got kind of weird, and the top 10, like we made the top 10, and I have a video from where I was fishing, and I have a video from one side of the lake, and it's all blue skies. It's pretty bumpy, and I turn around, and it's just a wall of white. You can't see the other side of the lake. I'm less than a mile from the shore of the other side of the lake, and you can't see. I'm going to say you can see 300 yards out, and then it's a wall of white all the way across the lake, and it's coming, and it was pretty crazy.
Wow.
I've never really fished in conditions like that.
Well, you got to think that they decided when they put this, when Jeremy and them put this together, they're like, okay, let's go there in May this time. Maybe we'll, a little better weather, a little, this. Now, don't get me wrong. You should have better weather. It should not snow on you up there. But that doesn't mean that snow is going to be gone.
Yeah, that's like you said. It's been warm, so what's happening up there? The snow is melting, and you know what that does? It cools the water off.
Right.
So it's going to be a real interesting tournament.
Yeah.
There's a few. Well, I guess there's only one guy in our Apex that Nick Wood, who he's fished Almanor every year. He said for like the last 20 years, they go there and they fish a tournament, him and his team partner, Justin. And they've won a lot of those tournaments.
Yeah.
And so he is like one of the favorites on that lake because he knows the lake so well.
Right. Oh, there's one other guy up there that knows it pretty well, and that's Greg Gutierrez. Greg used to fish there because I used to fish there. Yeah, I used to fish there with Greg a lot. So yeah, we used to have tournaments there all the time, and that was one that Greg's another one that knows that really well.
I hope he makes it.
Yeah, me too.
With everything, like I don't know if he's going to make it this year, and I don't blame him at all. Like that's my heart goes out to him on that one. Like I couldn't manage it,
Yeah, it's a very tough. It's been a long battle that they had, and like you said, I hope he makes it. I hope he gets back out there because I would miss him being on the water. It's like the natural place to see him is on the water, right?
Oh, I love Greg. He's a great guy, and once you get to know him, he is a great guy, and we'll definitely miss him if he's not there.
Yeah, he's been a big part of that Apex event. He's been a big part of the whole, of it coming along. Such a big supporter. Him, so.
His company too is just, it's all one big family. He's a real guy, and like I said, hopefully he makes it out, and tough times.
Yeah.
But yeah,
and then
he was fishing history, and he's like, it didn't work out.
Right.
He went to history stuff, and the lake was the shallowest he's ever seen. Because of the drought.
Yep, that last 3 years. I mean, the first year was maybe okay. The second year was a little bit worse, and the third year was just tragic. How little amount of water we had everywhere. They talked about lakes like Trinity, and they're probably, even Trinity to this day, they keep saying it's not going to fill up. It's just never going to reach its natural high level.
They mismanaged that water this year.
Yeah.
I think if they weren't messing with the dam, that the lake would have filled up.
Well, I think they got caught. I think they got caught by surprise, like pretty much everybody else, with the amount of water we were going to get.
Yeah, and it's just like FLW didn't come to Clearlake because they were worried that we weren't going to have water, so they put 2 on the Delta where they knew for sure they were going to have water.
Right.
And then come in February, flooding.
Yeah, there's nothing better than going from, no, we're not going to have much water, to we stop. Just stop right.
Yeah. Every lake is full.
Yeah. I mean, it's good to see it. I mean, Shasta, Oroville, all these lakes that are way up. It's good to see. But that leads to one, probably the last thing we'll kind of talk about here is we are going to have this a pretty short spring. We're going to be in the 90s, not much long, maybe another month and a half, and we're going to be in the 90s in California. And I will say that brings on a whole nother, kind of, I guess, situation that people are going to have to deal with when they go out fishing. High heat in the day, early in the morning, it's going to still be nice and great to fish. But that summer transition, those fish this year have been 100% messed up anyways. Do you think that this summer transition this year is going to be worse because it's such a short period of time?
I don't think so.
No?
I really feel like once those fish come off the beds, the fishing is going to be like it should be in the spring. Like, we missed that spring bite.
Mm-hmm.
But I think those fish are going to move up. Once the water does hit that temperature, we're going to have a giant wave of fish that's going to move up. Because, most years, the beginning of April starts the spawn.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have that warm, it's warming. So it keeps that water warm at night. We don't have these super cold nights and weird storms going through every day, on a normal year. Should I say it's normal, but not normal. But I think when those fish come off the bed, I think that offshore grass bite is going to be phenomenal.
Yeah. Just an absolute killer.
I think that offshore, anywhere outside of spawning bays, offshore grass, even the dock bite. We haven't been able to fish a dock in 3 years now.
Yeah.
So I think the dock bite's going to be back to what it used to be, where you could go just target docks all day and catch fish all day.
Yeah, no, it should be good. But I legit, for me, watching this, this transition go on, it's like you said, we basically missed our spring bite. It's been a little disheartening, but there's still it's just coming later, I guess, at this point, because I was up on some of my local lakes like Scotts Flat and Collins, and it's like they're lakes that should be spawning, but they're still in the 50s, low 50s, like I was on Scotts and it was 49, 51. That was the day. And I was like, wow, that's crazy for April. Because last year in April, I was out there in shorts and a t-shirt and catching them on glide baits and in record numbers. And it was like, wow. I can go down to Collins, same thing. It's just like They should be moving up. The big girls should be chewing. They should be eating. They should be all this, and they're just not yet. Another week maybe, and they'll go. If you can find some bedfish, which I haven't even seen one on that lake yet. And I've fished all over looking for them, and I can't find even one. But yeah, it should go soon. But I was just thinking that, with the way we've been pushed back, is it going to be too fast for that heat to come on, that 2 weeks from now we may have 90-degree heat?
I don't think so. I think, like I said, I think that big wave is going to move up, because you saw it, there's so many big fish sitting on the tulies, waiting.
And in those new willows that you're talking about, because there was a lot of new willows out there. I was surprised.
There's so many big fish sitting in those, waiting to go. And they've been there for a week and a half now, just waiting. And I feel like when that water does hit that perfect temperature, they're just going to run, they're going to do their deed, and they're going to leave. Yeah. And they're going to start eating.
Well, as a guy that fishes Berryessa, and you've seen what these can do, and a guy, you fished Folsom now, you've seen that. Those willow trees, in let's say 5 years, 3 years, somewhere in that range, what do you think those are going to do for that lake? Barring somebody going out there and cutting them down. But what do you think it's going to do for that lake, as far as having here's these new willows in 8 feet of water, shading the water, and making something. Oh,
it's going to be, it's great for the fish to spawn, like how thick these willows are, and what they're guarding a lot of the tulies. So a lot of the spots we can't get our boats in. So one, we're going to have a great spawn. 2, the fry is going to be able to hide.
Right.
And 3, there's going to be so much shade in this lake. And like you said, in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, because a lot of those willow trees are out in like 8 feet of water, 7 feet of water. So they're never going to be, not say never, but they're not going to be cut down anytime soon.
Right.
They're just going to keep continuing growing. And the fishery in the next 3 to 5 years is going to be so healthy. And like you see on Folsom, when you get a willow in the middle of a cut in the spring, and they're just full of fish.
Right.
That's what it's going to be. They're going to be in the shade before the spawn, after the spawn, during the summer. It's going to make the fishing so much better.
For nearly 100 years, Grundens has built gear you can trust to keep you fishing no matter the weather conditions. With head-to-toe coverage of high-performance outerwear, sportswear, footwear, and much more, it's no wonder Grundens products are backed by some of the bass fishing's most prominent figures, such as Skeet Reese, Randall Tharp, Adrian Avina, and Jonathan Van Dam, just to name a few. Grundens. We are fishing.
That's that's basically what I wanted to hear out of that, because that's what I think is going to happen too. I mean, I've seen, I don't want to say the drought's always a good thing, but sometimes good things come out of it. And we don't do a lot of, I don't hear about a lot of projects anymore. It seems like back in the early 2000s, late 90s, there was a lot of projects going on where people were, collecting Christmas trees and making Christmas tree runs, where fish could get in there, spawn. And when they did spawn, the fry had somewhere to go. And it seems like we've really lost those. I don't know if it's just because of like COVID came along and that dropped it for a couple of years, and this came along and that kind of dropped for it. And we just haven't seemed to come back to where we're managing our lakes like we used to do. And I don't think that Fish and Game does it at all. So
I was going to say a lot of that funding, Fish and Game stuff, they just aren't into that. Like even the trout plants, they don't plant trout like they used to.
No, nowhere near.
Trout that they used to plant weekly or bi-weekly, that doesn't happen anymore. It's like once a month if you're lucky.
And it's very specific lakes now. It used to be almost every lake got a trout plant. You just, what's my local lake, and I'm going to go out there and do it, and then fish for them, but not anymore.
No, it's really hurt the fishing community in a whole, because when they did that, you could take your kid and you can go to the creek, the lake. It didn't matter, and you could catch trout. We called them put and takes. They put them there so you could take them.
Right.
You know, well, they don't do that anymore. So you took that away from us. You know, now we have to take them to go catch bluegill, which are fun as well, but don't take those home and eat them.
Not yeah, you need 2 buckets full to definitely get those fish to make it a meal.
You go catch your 5 trout, that's like 3 meals.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, and trout are fun to fish for, so are bluegill, but trout, you know, they give up a good fight. They're fun to fish for, and a lot of the places, like the streams, you know, you had to park and walk in where they dumped them, and it was like, you know, a day of exploring with your kid or with your family.
Yeah, it was kind of getting back to nature, doing the hiking, doing the walking in, doing some of those. And I mean, there are lakes all over where I live up in the mountains that we could use to hike into. You know, you mentioned like Pillsbury, you mentioned, you know, some of the ones around you that are, you know, even go up to like Blue Lake and all that used to be, I remember coming back all the time, and I was like, we'd stop and fish there because it was fun to go fish.
That's where I grew up in Upper Lake. So my mom would take me to Blue Lakes when I was a kid and drop me off.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd stay there all day while she was doing whatever she had to do, and, you know, and fish for trout all day long, me and my buddies.
Yeah. What's that one what's that one right above that? It's it's a little bit bigger lake. It's come on up more ski lake. Which one?
You know?
Low Lake Mendocino, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I grew up fishing there as well. So back in the day, they used to plant stripers in there.
Right.
That was the big thing. So, like, you know, the old timers from Upper Lake used to take me over there, and we'd fish for stripers. We net the shad and we drift for stripers. Well, they don't plant stripers in there anymore. You know, just little things like that, you know, that's taking away from the whole outdoors experience.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that a lot of times they would rather see, you know, you take your kids home, put them in a room and give them you know, some machine of some sort and say, here, go fish, you know, go do that for the rest of your life.
Yeah, nowadays, and you know, it's sad to say, they take the fundings and they do other stuff with it, like, you know.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate.
It is very unfortunate that we're losing resources.
Yeah.
You know, fund other stuff where, you know, that's a whole different story.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't wait. In 50 years, you'll have a train to somewhere. But I know that you got to get going and go get your son over to his baseball game. So, John, I just want to say thank you very much for coming on. It's always great to hear from you. The amount of knowledge you have and what you've done out there in this fishing world and what you continue to do in this fishing world is nothing short of amazing. So, you know, good luck this year on the Apex. I hope to hear from you again. We'll try to get you back on. Go win one of them. I'd love to talk to you after you win one of these events.
I'm trying my hardest. You know, hey, as long as I'm getting paid, I'm happy. But I would love to win. You know, that's my my goal is to make as many top 10s as possible. And if you put yourself in the top 10, you put yourself in an opportunity to win. So
absolutely,
that's the goal, is make as many top 10s as possible this year, and whatever circuit I fish. Hopefully I win an Apex. Hopefully I win a Wild West. Hopefully I win something.
Well, you know, you did get to go back east and you got to work the Bassmasters Classic. So I'm not saying you're going to it, but, you know, give you a little taste of what it could be like if you made that event.
Yeah. I've actually talked to a few buddies about fishing the Nation.
Yeah.
So I'd really like to
throw your hat in the ring.
That. I would really like to try to fish the Nation and just see how it goes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll be watching for it out there for sure. So,
thank you
again, John, thanks for coming on tonight. I really appreciate it. And everybody else, thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this, because John had a lot of knowledge. If you're a California fisherman right now and you want to go out there and do that. And again, actually, you know what, John? I know you have John's guide, your guide service. Why don't you give us the name, how to get a hold of you, what your social media stuff is. Let's hear a little bit about that too, before we got about 7 minutes left. So,
J Pearl Guide Service. I have a Facebook, Instagram, that kind of stuff, you can message me. Half day, full day, Clearlake. I do Berryessa as well. I guide on the river for salmon, striper, sturgeon. So I'm an all-around guide.
Mm-hmm.
This year we got cut short on no salmon season, so we'll have to guide for other stuff during that time of year.
Okay. Do you you also used to guide for hunting too? Do you still do that?
I do occasionally. Yeah, it depends on, what they want to hunt for.
Okay. What's your specialty?
It depends. Like I got buddies with some nice ranches, to deer hunt. Turkey hunting's easy.
Okay.
That's what I mainly do, is like turkey and some deer hunts.
Okay. Well, that kind of gives, if anybody's out there and they want to get hold of John, go on there, John Pearl's Guide Service, give him a call, try it out. The guy he's going to put you on fish. He's going to put you on whatever you're looking for. He's going to put you on it. So again, John, thank you for coming on. Appreciate you a lot. And we'll let you get going. So guys, thanks for, oh, go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to come on and talk with you.
Yeah, no problem. Again, like I said, it's and don't get me wrong here. It is very hard to get a hold of this guy. He's on the water a lot, or we're working a lot. So, yeah, but yeah. So next week we will have another great angler on there. We're working on some guys from a little bit. Then we're gonna go back east. We've been 3 weeks here in the West Coast. We're gonna go talk to a couple guys back east, get the skinny, and get you guys going on those. So thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you. We'll see you on the next one.